I never thought I'd be talking about this, but something happened recently that completely changed how I see intimacy. It wasn't with my boyfriend. No, it was with my dog. You're probably wondering what the heck I'm talking about, right? Well, let me explain. For 6 years, I've been in a relationship with my boyfriend. We've been through a lot together, shared memories, laughter, and even some tough times. But recently, something's felt different. At first, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It wasn't like we were fighting or anything obvious like that. But slowly, I began to notice that there was a distance growing between us. It wasn't just physical. Sure, we still slept in the same bed, shared meals, and spent time together, but emotionally? It was like there was a wall between us. I could feel it, but I didn't know how to explain it. I needed more than just being in the same room. I needed to feel like we were truly connected, like he saw me, like I wasn't just another part of the furniture in his life. But no matter what I did, it felt like we were stuck in this routine. The same conversations, the same gestures, the same quiet moments that never really meant anything. I'd look at him and wonder, is this it? We weren't fighting, we weren't even arguing. We were just existing next to each other. And the worst part was, I didn't know how to break out of it. I didn't know how to make him see that something was missing. And then, one evening, something happened that completely caught me off guard. It wasn't anything dramatic, no big gesture or grand moment. It was something simple, but it made me realize just how much I'd been missing. My dog, who usually had his own spot on the floor or curled up in his bed, suddenly climbed up onto the couch beside me. At first, I didn't think much of it. He'd done it before, but this time, he didn't just sit there like usual. He nuzzled into my arms, gently resting his head against my chest. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. It wasn't just about the physical closeness, don't get me wrong, the warmth of his body against mine was comforting. But it was more than that. It was the way he seemed to instinctively know exactly what I needed. There were no words exchanged, no demands or expectations. He wasn't looking for attention, he wasn't asking for anything. He was simply present, offering the kind of comfort that I hadn't felt in a long time. It was as if he could sense the emotional emptiness I'd been carrying. It was a quiet, peaceful intimacy that I hadn't realized I was craving. There was no pretense, no need for validation, just the pure act of being there. In that moment, I felt seen. I felt understood. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. It was such a stark contrast to how I'd been feeling in my relationship. I realized that the emotional intimacy I had been longing for wasn't something I could find by simply being near someone. It wasn't about physical closeness or just being together. It was about connection, about truly being present with each other. And in that moment, it wasn't my boyfriend who gave me that. It was my dog. A creature who didn't need words to offer the kind of support and emotional connection that I had been missing. I know it might sound strange, but that quiet, simple moment with my dog made me realize just how much I had been longing for that kind of emotional presence in my life. And it wasn't just the physical closeness, it was the feeling of being completely seen in a way that no one else had done in a long time. It wasn't just about the cuddling. Sure, having him close to me, feeling the warmth of his little body against mine, was comforting. But it was something deeper than that. In that moment, I didn't just feel physically close to him, I felt wanted. I felt seen in a way that I hadn't felt in a long time. It was like my dog instinctively understood what I needed, even without me saying a word. His presence was so genuine, so unconditional. And that's when it hit me. It wasn't just the physical closeness I'd been missing, it was the emotional intimacy that had been lacking for so long. I didn't just want someone to share a bed with, to be near me when I was lonely. I wanted someone who could connect with me on a deeper level, someone who could look at me and understand exactly what I was feeling, without needing to ask. I needed someone who would make me feel safe, someone who could cherish me for who I truly was, without judgment, without expectations. And in that moment, I realized that my dog was offering me something that I hadn't even realized I was craving. He wasn't asking for anything in return. There were no strings attached, no unspoken pressures. He was simply there, offering me comfort and companionship in a way that felt pure and real. And that's what I hadn't been getting from my boyfriend. For so long, I'd been searching for that kind of connection, that kind of intimacy, but it always felt just out of reach. I thought I was asking for too much, that maybe I was expecting something that wasn't realistic. But what my dog gave me in just one quiet, peaceful moment was the very thing I'd been longing for in my relationship. It wasn't about grand gestures or sweet words. It wasn't about physical closeness or just sharing a space. It was about presence. About being there, truly being there for each other, without distractions or expectations. In that moment, with my dog curled up in my arms, I realized that emotional intimacy isn't just about being close, it's about feeling understood, feeling safe in someone's presence. It's about being able to let down your guard, to show your vulnerability, and know that you won't be judged, but embraced. With my boyfriend, I never felt like I could fully be myself. I never felt like I could let go of the walls I'd built around my heart. We had our good moments, of course, but there was always this lingering sense of distance. I felt like I was always holding back, always waiting for something to change, for him to see me in the way I needed to be seen. But with my dog, there were no walls. There was no need to hide or pretend. He didn't care about my flaws or my insecurities. He didn't need me to be anything other than who I was in that moment. And that made me realize how much I had been craving that kind of emotional connection, one that wasn't based on routine or obligation, but on something real, something raw. It made me question everything about what I thought intimacy should be. I had spent so much time looking for it in the wrong places, thinking that it was something I could only find with another person. But in that quiet moment with my dog, I realized that sometimes, the deepest emotional connections come from the most unexpected places. That night, as I sat there with my dog curled up in my arms, I felt a peace that I hadn't felt in ages. The quiet of the room, the soft rhythm of his breathing, and the warmth of his body against mine allowed me to clear my mind in a way that felt almost foreign. In that stillness, something shifted inside me. It was as though everything I had been avoiding suddenly became clear. For months, I had been telling myself that I was just missing affection, that the distance between me and my boyfriend was a normal part of being in a long-term relationship. But in that moment, I realized I had been ignoring a much deeper issue. It wasn't just about physical closeness. It wasn't about missing the hugs or kisses. It was about the absence of a connection that made me feel like I truly mattered to someone. I had been so focused on trying to feel close to my boyfriend through routine and familiarity, but I never stopped to think about what was actually missing, what I was really craving. I needed emotional intimacy. I needed to feel seen, heard, and understood. I needed someone who could reach beyond the surface and connect with the real me, not just the person I showed the world. And it wasn't until I was there with my dog, in that quiet moment, that I realized what had been missing all along. My dog didn't need to do anything grand or extraordinary to make me feel that connection. He didn't need to speak or offer solutions. He simply existed beside me, offering his presence, and in doing so, he made me feel something I hadn't felt in a long time, understood. That's when it hit me, this wasn't just about affection or touch. It was about the deep emotional connection that I had been missing. I had been longing for it, but I hadn't fully recognized it until that moment. For so long, I had told myself that the physical closeness was enough, that I shouldn't expect too much from my relationship. But as I sat there with my dog, I realized that I had been ignoring the most important part of intimacy. It wasn't just about being in the same space. It wasn't just about sharing a bed. It was about being emotionally present for each other, about truly understanding and supporting one another. And that was something I wasn't getting from my boyfriend. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I had been craving something that went beyond the surface level, something that couldn't be fixed by just being near each other. I needed to feel truly connected, to feel like I wasn't just sharing a space with someone, but sharing a life, a deep, emotional connection. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. I couldn't keep ignoring the fact that I was emotionally starved, that I was missing something fundamental in my relationship. I needed to face the truth about what I was really looking for, and whether my boyfriend could give it to me. And in that moment, I knew that I had to address it. I couldn't keep brushing it aside any longer. I had to be honest with myself, and with him, about what I needed from our relationship. I had to find out if we could rebuild the emotional intimacy that had been lost, or if I was facing the painful truth that it wasn't something he could provide. It was a hard realization, but it was necessary. I couldn't keep living in this emotional void, pretending that everything was okay when it clearly wasn't. So, after weeks of feeling this growing distance, I knew something had to change. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine when it wasn't. I couldn't keep going through the motions of a relationship that didn't fulfill me emotionally. I realized I had to speak up before it was too late. One evening, I sat down with my boyfriend. My heart was racing, but I knew this conversation was necessary. I had to be honest. I told him that I had been feeling disconnected, not just physically, but emotionally too. I explained how I needed more than just surface-level closeness. I needed to feel seen, heard, and understood on a deeper level. I needed intimacy that went beyond routine affection. It was hard to open up like this. I was afraid of his reaction, but I couldn't keep holding it in. And to my surprise, he listened. He didn't get defensive or dismissive. He just listened and acknowledged that he had noticed the distance too, but hadn't known how to address it. We talked about how we had both fallen into a pattern where emotional intimacy had been neglected. We realized that we had to make an effort to reconnect, to nurture the bond that had been slipping away. It wasn't a perfect conversation, but it was a breakthrough. We agreed that intimacy isn't something that just happens. It requires effort, communication, and time. We didn't have all the answers that night, but we committed to trying. We agreed to take small steps toward rebuilding our connection, to be more present for each other in ways that mattered. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were on the same page. There was hope. We both knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was a start. We were ready to work on it, together. What I've learned from all of this is that intimacy isn't just about being physically close. It's not just about the touch, the kisses, or the moments spent together in bed. It's about something much deeper. It's about feeling emotionally connected, about truly being seen and understood. It's about those quiet moments, when you're not saying anything at all, but you feel safe, loved, and wanted just by being in each other's presence. I used to think that physical closeness was enough, that just being there with someone meant you were connected. But now, I see that intimacy is built on emotional vulnerability. It's about sharing your fears, your dreams, your needs, and your desires, and knowing that your partner will not just hear you, but truly listen. It's about feeling like you're not alone in the world, but that someone is right there with you, walking through life together. So, if you're feeling disconnected in your relationship, if you're longing for something deeper, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't let that emotional gap grow bigger and bigger until it feels impossible to cross. Tell your partner what you need. Tell them how you're feeling. It's scary, I know. But the truth is, true intimacy isn't something that just happens on its own. It's something you both have to work at, every day. And when you do, it changes everything. Because when you find that emotional connection, that real intimacy, it makes everything else fall into place. It's like the missing piece of the puzzle that you didn't even realize you were looking for. And once you have it, nothing else compares. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a time when you felt disconnected in your relationship? How did you handle it? What steps did you take to rebuild that emotional connection? Drop a comment below, and let's have an open conversation about it. Your stories mean so much to me, and I know they can help others who might be going through something similar. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another story. I've got plenty more coming your way, and I can't wait to share them with you. Thank you so much for watching, for being part of this journey, and for all the love and support you've shown. I'll see you in the next one.